Good evening. It's day 26. Donald Trump, you are fired. Oh, I was very tired today. I mentioned last night, I bit my lip. I bit my lip again. And I have this little thing on my tongue, this stress ulcer. And might seem like little things, but being very tired as well as, and also having legal work to do and having a full-time job and trying to take care of oneself it's a lot. So my heart goes out to anyone who has obligations, children and so on. I get it. It's really, really hard. I want to read to you tonight from Marcus Aurelius. I've started reading again his Meditations, which I've read a couple times before. And not very long, this, but I have a point I want to make about it. If you aren't aware, this is not just a character in the first Gladiator film. There's a real person who lived about 2,000 years ago. And he was the Holy Roman Emperor. He was the most powerful man in the world in his time. And although there were historical things, difficult things, there was a new religious movement at the time that was becoming very popular. And my understanding and my sense is that it was a very beautiful thing in its original pure form, and then over the course of a couple thousand years it's become mutated and perverted into something really quite awful. There's a lot of witchcraft and stuff now involved in it. A lot of things have been translated poorly, and it's been translated so many times and filtered through the minds of so many people. It's become turned on its head. It's a shame what's happened. But I think it's in the process of being righted anyway. But this was is one of the proponents of what's known as Stoic philosophy. And this is very much sort of the last years of what a lot of people would call pagan pagan views. But we shouldn't, it's unwise for us to let labels like that, this whatever stigma we feel when we hear that, whatever your background is, your education, shouldn't immediately let us turn a cold shoulder to that. Ooh, this is a label that is something that is bad. I should not listen to this. This isn't good because of this. Really, what does it mean? Do you know what you're talking about? Do you not think that there were good people? Do you not experience the reality that there are good people everywhere? Perhaps you don't travel and don't leave your community very often. I think it's very wise for us to travel. In fact, if I could make one reform to the education system of this country, I would institute a government-sponsored mandatory gap year program between high school and college. If you want to go to college in this country, you must, at the end of high school, I put together some sort of application and proposal, sort of like a project, like a research project, and you lay out what you want to do, where you want to go, and you can really go just about anywhere. You can go for a year. And if you've been born in some sort of a rural area, be be strongly encouraged to go to a more urban setting, or if that's just anathema to you, you can't even abide the notion of being in a city, well, all right, then you go to another culture, another country, and live for a year. I've done this. And I've said on previous days, it never occurred to me, not even once, not even for a split second, do I ever remember feeling unsafe living with a family in Japan. Never. Nowadays, I've realized how much things have changed, how sad it is to think, even at my age, it would cross my mind. I think that's a tragedy per se, tragedy in and of itself. But never ever did I consider that, and I don't think ever did they consider that. That was only barely a little more than 20 years ago. And I was a Basketcase at the time. I was still grieving the loss of my mother, and it was, I was like I said, I think last night or the night before, my nickname was Spaz Factor. I would freak out. In fact, one of my close friends, I was a groomsman at his wedding. He was physically larger and more powerful than most of us freshman year, and I recall on several instances I had to be physically restrained because I would lose my temper so much. There was like a little hole in my wooden door in the dorms in high school, and I couldn't stand. Whereas before, the bullies had gone home at the end of the day in Catholic school, K through 8. I went to Catholic school in the South. They would follow me back to my room and would haze me on ways and make fun of me, and I couldn't just play back with them and just roll with it. They would, look through the door and put things through the door and whisper things through the door, bang on the door. In fact, I remember one time I did this whole routine where I taped the entire door around and around through the hinges, tried to cover up the hole because I was just trying to do my homework and be a good boy. And I went to the bathroom for a few minutes, and I came back and someone had ripped all the tape off, and I lost it. I went from room to room kicking open doors. Who did this? But even then, even in that state, there was trust. And now, thanks to Donald Trump and his ilk and people like that, and how commonplace our cognizance of the corruption in big business and big tech and big government has become, it's trickled down into everyday life. I've said this many times before. The most tragic unseen casualty of this day and age is the destruction of public trust. I've said before, it is a tragedy that your mind would, like mine, run to doubt me and my integrity before you would trust that I am good. They're completely descending into madness now. And so many people are unwilling to be humble and unwilling to accept that maybe we've been beguiled, we've been led up the garden path by this false prophet, this man who would go to a church and hold up a Bible just for a photo op, which he did do, launching tear gas at people down the street, and he's there. 1 week, the greatest threat to the country is this. The next week is this. It's whatever suits his mind. He is totally untethered. There is no recognizable set of moral principles that is guiding him. It's insane. And it's insane to support him. I hope it hasn't torn your family apart like it has mine. I don't want to talk about that right now. But listen to this. This was a man who was way more powerful than Donald Trump is. in a certain way of seeing things. This is a man who could have ordered them to bring him your head on a plate, and they literally would have taken you out and chopped your head off and brought it back into him, if he so wanted. And they had really bad leaders back then too. Marcus Aurelius is known in historical context, and his legacy is that he was one of the most benevolent rulers of this time. I think it was him and his predecessor. They were two of the best emperors they ever had, and there were bad things that happened, of course, and there was a lot of war he had to deal with. He did not see too many years of peace in his time, but he did sit down and write in Greek things like this. Obviously, I'm not reading it in Greek. From my brother Severus, to love my kin, and to love truth, and to love justice. And through him I learned to know Thracia, Helvidius, Cato, Dion, Brutus. And from him I received the idea of a polity in which there is the same law for all, a polity administered with regard to equal rights and equal freedom of speech, and the idea of a kingly government which respects most of all the freedom of the governed. I learned from him also consistency and undeviating steadiness in my regard for philosophy, and a disposition to do good, and to give to others readily, and to cherish good hopes, and to believe that I am loved by my friends. And in him I observed no concealment of his opinions with respect to those whom he condemned, and that his friends had no need to conjecture what he wished or did not wish, but it was quite plain. I do not think that Donald Trump would give anything to any one of us unless there was an angle in it for him. I think, just like we heard the story from, I believe, John Kelly, that he was at a grave in a military cemetery, like a fallen heroes cemetery, and he was staring at this. It might have been in Europe. I've mentioned this before. And the story that came from John Kelly, who was in the armed services, was working for him at that time, was he just stood there and just all of a sudden looked over and said, I don't get it. What was in it for them? I don't think Donald Trump would spit in your throat if it were on fire, because he would not be able to get past the idea, what's in it for me? What are you going to do for me? Where's the quid pro quo? So yes, it is not time to be silent. If that's all you can do, like I said, that's fine. Like I mentioned last night, I know people in all ages. I know people in their 20s. I know people in their 30s. And I don't get the sense that some people are doing anything about it. I know people that are older that are not only not doing anything about it, they're voting for this. And then they're burying their heads in the sand and pretending this isn't happening. Last I checked. Exacerbating the very conditions that are making their own descendants suffer and have a harder time, and then even going so far as to sneer at them about it. You know, people who are really struggling with mental health, they're among us. They don't wear a sign that says I'm struggling with mental health or I'm still supporting Donald Trump. But the man is imploding, and it is inspiring. Always try to look for the good. It is inspiring to see now that young journalist. I mean, she's not that much younger than I am. I think she said she's 34. Excuse me. Caitlin Collins, good for her. I think she's a wonderful journalist. Went on the Daily Show the other day after Donald Trump made fun of her at the White House Correspondents' Dinner. And now I've just seen her, she's showing up on social media feeds. I'm like, oh, wonderful. And it's speaking up more. And her people, whatever, her publicists and all these people that help her with her career, they're probably like, yes, now is the time. Like, you need to like catch this wave and run with it. I'm like, great. That is exactly what I've been saying since day one in this. This is a wave. You know, if you want to go back and watch day one, I went back and I revised the hashtags and everything. I'm going back through because I didn't know what I was doing with that. You can go back and you can hit the timestamp and you can see me going, you may think you're inevitable, but I am Ionicles. And look, since then, it's been very interesting, you know? It doesn't really matter. I mean, it's half for fun. It's tongue-in-cheek, you know, a little bit that I did that, but it's really interesting as things are starting to shift. And the universe is soundtracking sometimes. When I say that, I can feel it starting to shift. Fireworks are going off. It's really interesting. I think that the entire planet is yearning for this change. It's a long time coming. I'd even not be so foolish to consider that it's been written about for a long time. Certain patterns fit. Anyway, if you're dealing with something like depression or you're feeling helpless or hopeless, I am with you for what it's worth. You are not alone. And I strongly encourage you just to consider just singing. Singing is one of life's great cure-alls, or just reading something out loud to yourself. The older it is, the easier it is to understand it if we read it out loud. Just let your own voice be heard, even if it's by the walls in your room or by your plants. Or just sit like we did a night or two ago and breathe. Sticking with this thinking and just letting it spiral and spiral up and spiral down, negative things and positive things and negative, is exhausting and it's unhealthy. So I think we're going to call it there because I need to do more legal work, and 17 minutes again. Anyway, rest well, and peace be with you, and we'll see you tomorrow for day 27. All right, good night now.